The palace was wrapped in twilight's golden hush, and Sheikh Hamdan stood before his writing desk, its surface scattered with pages, each one bearing the weight of feelings he had never spoken aloud. Tonight, the ink was not just ink, it was the blood of his heart flowing into words meant for someone the world knew as Sheikha Thani. She was more than a royal name, she was the unspoken chapter in his destiny, a light that once entered his soul so quietly that even the stars paused to listen. His pen trembled not from hesitation, but reverence. This was not a letter, it was a tribute born from love itself. He began to write as though the universe were reading over his shoulder. Every sentence shimmered with emotion, every pause carried the echo of longing. A crown touched by love, he wrote, is not worn upon the head, but within the heart. Sheikha Thani had never needed jewels to command attention. Her grace was enough to silence entire rooms. She was poetry that walked, prayer that breathed. To her, power was gentleness, and love was strength disguised in kindness. It was that truth that Fazza sought to capture between the fragile lines of his secret letters to destiny. The desert had witnessed many of his poems, but none like these. Each letter he wrote to her was sealed not with wax, but with tears only the night could see. He did not address her as a princess or a royal. He addressed her as his eternity, as the heartbeat that time itself could not outpace. If love were a kingdom, he wrote once, you would be its compass, and I, its wandering poet forever drawn to you. Those words remained locked away in his chamber, hidden from the eyes of the world that saw only the prince, never the man beneath the crown. Sheikha Thani had changed him without ever trying to. Her laughter softened the sharp edges of his world. Her compassion gave meaning to his leadership. And her silence, her beautiful, sacred silence, taught him that love does not always need to be spoken to be understood. She existed in his life like a melody that played even after the song had ended. Every time he stood before his people, the calm in his voice carried her strength. Every time he smiled, the warmth behind it belonged to her. He often wondered if destiny had written them on the same page or simply allowed their souls to brush against one another before parting. Perhaps love wasn't meant to possess, it was meant to awaken. And that's what she did. She awakened something ancient within him, something deeper than desire, an ache to protect, to cherish, to create beauty in her honor. You are not my past nor my future, one letter read, you are the verse that lives between my every breath. The nights he wrote were not quiet, they pulsed with memory. The rustle of the palm trees outside his balcony, the distant call of a falcon, the scent of burning oud, they all seemed to conspire with his heart. Each sound reminded him of her presence, as though the entire city carried fragments of her soul. His poetry was not an escape from his feelings, it was his way of kneeling before them. He wasn't just writing letters, he was building a temple of words to house her legacy. When the moonlight spilled across his desk, he often lifted his eyes toward it and whispered, if destiny listens, may it know I wrote her name with love, not longing. There was peace in knowing that not all love stories were meant to be told aloud. Some were destined to bloom in silence, to be remembered by the wind, to be guarded by the desert itself. And in that silence, he found eternity, not the kind that lasts forever, but the kind that never truly ends. The world knew Sheikh Hamdan as a leader, a poet, a man of action, but these letters revealed another side of him. The man who found faith in love's purity. The man who bowed before the invisible bond between two souls. The man who could conquer empires, yet surrendered willingly to the thought of her. To him, Sheikha Thani was not a chapter in history, she was the poetry written between history's lines. There were nights when the sky seemed to open just for him, stars shimmering like ink blots on the parchment of heaven. He would take out one of his letters, unfold it carefully, and read it under that celestial glow.
Days turned into months, yet the memory of Sheikha Thani did not fade, it ripened like a timeless rose in the garden of his soul. Sheikh Hamdan often found himself standing before the dawn, watching the first rays of sunlight paint the horizon gold. It was her color, the shade of her smile, the hue of her spirit. Every sunrise felt like a letter sent back from destiny, reminding him that love this pure never ends, it only transforms. He would close his eyes and whisper her name beneath his breath, as if afraid that saying it too loudly would break the sacred thread that still bound them beyond time. In his private chamber, where silence hummed like a living being, the letters remained untouched, kept in a wooden chest carved with verses of faith and loyalty. He had once written, "Some loves are not meant to be seen by eyes, they are meant to be guarded by angels." Perhaps this was one of them. When he touched the letters, he did not feel sadness anymore. He felt gratitude. Gratitude for having known a love so noble, so untainted by desire or pride. It was a love that made him gentler with the world, more patient with destiny, and softer toward himself. He began to see her reflection in everything beautiful and fleeting. The sway of a palm tree against the evening breeze reminded him of the way she carried herself, graceful, calm, yet unshakably strong. The laughter of children near the palace echoed her joy. Even the horses, restless and free, seemed to gallop with her spirit beside them. It was as though she had become a part of life itself, woven into every rhythm, hidden within every quiet miracle. She was no longer a memory. She was presence. There are stories the world never hears, stories born in silence and buried in loyalty. His love for her became one of them. It wasn't a love that demanded to be seen. It was a love that existed like air, everywhere, unseen yet essential. He didn't curse fate for taking her away, he thanked it for letting him know her at all. That, he thought, was the truest kind of forever. You are the echo of my quietest thoughts, the rhythm behind my breath. You are my unfinished poem, the destiny I wrote before I knew how to spell love. At night, when the moon bathed the desert in silver light, Fazza often rode alone, his heart open to the sky. Those journeys were not escapes, they were conversations with eternity. He believed that somewhere between the stars and the dunes, her soul listened. Sometimes he imagined her laughter carried in the wind, soft and knowing. "You still write to me," it seemed to say, "and I still hear you." That thought was enough to bring peace to his restless heart. He did not need answers. The feeling itself was the answer. He began composing poems again, but these were not for the world. They were for destiny, the unseen messenger between